Hi guys, ya sabes que Carlos irtate to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today we're making an ultra moist coconut cake. In Greek, it's known as cake karidas. This is so good, you guys, especially with some coffee. Make some coffee or tea, call some friends over because this is too good to not share. Let's get started. Okay, so since this is a syrup-based dessert, we're gonna start off by making the syrup. I have 2.5 cups of granulated sugar in my pot. I'm gonna add 2.5 cups of water. And then I'm just gonna give it a nice mix. We need some lemon juice in here, but before we get the juice out of the lemon, since we need the zest first, I'm just gonna zest this lemon into the flour that's gonna go into the cake. So lemon and coconut go really nice together, really brightens it up. I'm gonna use probably 3/4 of the zest of this lemon because it is a big lemon. You don't want it to be a lemon flavored cake. Coconut is the star ingredient here. That looks like enough. But if you like more, go ahead and put more. And then all we need is the juice of half a lemon. Now I'm using lemon, but orange is a good substitute if you prefer that. Any citrus really you can use in here. We're gonna mix this up, bring it to a boil. Once it comes to a boil and the sugar is dissolved, I'm gonna take it off of the heat and stir in a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Set it aside to cool completely, and then that's it. The syrup part is done. So the syrup is done. Now we're gonna get the dry ingredients ready. Over here I have 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, the zest of a lemon. I'm gonna add just 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and I'm just gonna mix it all up. So here I have sweetened shredded coconut. This is 1.5 cups. In grams, it's 175 grams. So I have 2 sticks of very soft, unsalted butter. If you want to leave them out for an hour or two for them to get softened, that's fine. Otherwise, just pop them in the microwave for about 15-20 seconds. And then I save the wrappers because I use those to grease the pan. This is a 10-inch springform pan, usually the pans that are used for making cheesecakes. I really like this because the cake comes out very easily from the pan. You don't have to flip it upside down or any of that, which is very hard to do with a cake that's been doused in syrup. So if you have one of these, it's great. Otherwise, use a 10-inch round baking pan. That'll work as well. Just don't take it out of the pan and just slice it right out of there. And just grease the pan all around. There's enough butter on these to do that. Otherwise, you can spray it if you want, if you prefer to use cake spray or baking spray. So I have the butter in here. Now we're gonna add sugar, 1/2 cup of sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of pure almond extract. Almond and coconut is another ingredient combination that just works so well together. And 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. And we're gonna whisk these up until the butter is nice and fluffy. And that happens fairly quickly. Now I have 3 eggs that are at room temperature. A quick way to bring eggs to room temperature is to dunk them in a bowl of warm water for a few minutes. That does it. So I'm gonna turn the mixer back on and add these in one at a time. In between mixing, go ahead and stop the mixer and go in and scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl. And it's gonna start to look a little curdled on you. Don't worry about it because once you mix it and you whip it for a while, about 2-3 minutes, everything's just gonna come together and be smooth again. Now I'm gonna add 1 cup of milk, and then make sure that the milk is at room temperature, not cold and not hot. If it's hot, it'll melt the butter. If it's cold, it's gonna make it just harden and curdle up even more. Whisk it until everything is nice and smooth. Did I say smooth? It's not gonna be smooth. It's gonna curdle up just like this. Don't worry about it. Now we're gonna add the flour in a few batches. I think 3 batches should be good enough. You just want to add it in, mix a little bit until it's incorporated, and keep adding a little bit more at a time until all of the flour is in there. But do not overmix. If you overmix cake batter, it becomes tough and more like bread. And once the last batch of flour is almost incorporated, then go ahead and add coconut. And that's it. The cake batter is done. We're just going to transfer it to the baking dish. So before you put it in your baking pan, go ahead and just mix it one more time with a spatula just to make sure anything that's stuck to the bottom or the sides gets incorporated. And then inside the pan it goes. And then just go ahead and spread it evenly. So my oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. This is going to go in and it's going to bake on the center rack. I also like to put a baking pan underneath just to make sure that there's nothing that spills or drips or anything like that or leaks into the oven. This is going to bake until a toothpick that's inserted into the center comes out clean or with some crumbs attached. That's going to take about 45 to 50 minutes. Keep an eye on it. Every oven bakes differently. Once it's done, I'm just going to let it rest for about 5-10 minutes. Then I'm going to carefully lift the pan and just line the bottom with some aluminum foil because sometimes these pans tend to leak. And then I'm just going to poke it with a toothpick. I'm going to just poke it all around so that way the syrup absorbs. And I'm going to add the syrup a little bit at a time because if I were to add all of it, it would come out of the pan. As soon as it starts to absorb, I'm going to continue adding, and then I'm going to set it aside until all of the syrup is absorbed. It's going to take about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Then it's going to be time to serve. So the cake is ready, and if you're serving this for a party, it's a great idea to make this cake a day ahead of time. Just let it sit in the pan that you baked it in and the syrup was poured in, so that way all the syrup can absorb slowly and it could be nice and cold. And then the day that you're serving it, take it out of the pan and carefully put it on a cake pedestal or a serving platter, whatever you're serving it on. Top it with lots and lots of sweetened shredded coconut, and then it's ready to cut into it. Make some coffee because this is a sweet, decadent cake and it needs something, maybe coffee or tea on the side. It is time for the taste test. The very tip of the part is the most moist, just because that's usually the moistest part of any cake, and then you add syrup on top of it. It almost tastes like pudding. The edges are going to be a little bit more cake-like. You could just slice into it like pudding. It's so delicious, so tender, so moist, so sweet, and just out of this world yummy. I think you guys are gonna love it. The exact measurements are on the blog post on dimitrasdishes.com. Let me know what you guys think. If you make it, share pictures with me on Facebook and Instagram. I love to see your recreations. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you all next time. Yes,